Hello and welcome to lesson 9 of global development. Last lesson we got introduced to our case study, which is going to be forming the basis of many of the lessons that we're going to be using for the remainder of this topic. Today we're going to start to look at a bit more specific information to do with the development of India, and we're going to start with something which you've already seen a little bit before with regards to the UK, which is this idea of uneven development. So India is also a place which is unevenly developed, and the rates of development vary across India in far more sort of stark contrast than we'd find in the UK. So even if the UK's northeast and southeast are developing at different rates, and it's got this two-speed economy, it doesn't mean that if you go to the northeast that you're going to be faced with just this wide expanse of rural unpaved roads and farms and fields and things like that. So our level of uneven development is far less polarised than you might find in India. So the regional contrasts in India are far more stark. So by the end of this session, you should understand how and why the rates of development vary in India. And because we already know some of the causes of uneven development for the UK, we can certainly apply some of those concepts to India, but with a bit more specific other aspects involved too. So this is the title for today's session. Write that down. When you're ready, unpause the screen. Okay, so a couple of dingbats for you to start with, and this relates to two of the key terms that you're going to be covering today. Well, this first one is just one word, a four-letter word. Okay, this is core, and you need a definition for this. So the core, when we're talking about this particular topic of development, is the focus of the main industry or economic activity in a place. So in most countries, a core or any core region is a city, and you can have several core regions in any one country if you've got different developed industries. So the UK will have multiple cores. You've got London, you've got Bristol in the west, you've got Birmingham, you've got Manchester, Liverpool. So there are lots of different cores, but around those cores you will find places which are not the focus of economic activity. My next dingbat is going to hopefully give you an idea of that. Okay, hopefully you got it. It was periphery. So the periphery are the areas that are less developed, and they tend to be outside the core, quite far away often, but sometimes not even that far away from the core regions. And we've already explored some of the reasons for this with regards to the UK. Even though the UK doesn't have as many peripheral regions as India does, the reasons are often still very similar. So they're geographically isolated. There may be mountainous, or they might not have very good road networks or rail networks there. The physical conditions might be difficult. So if you think of Rajasthan in the northwest of India, which is a desert, that is a very difficult physical condition to grow crops, and therefore industry is not going to develop there. That you've got the mountainous areas in the north as well. Of Kashmir, etc. Now, all of those factors hinder the growth of economic activity. Just like in the northwest of Scotland, with the Highlands up there, it's not really a place where industry and economic activity is very well developed, and therefore some of the other aspects of development are less as well, even for the UK. So they probably have a bit of issues with their broadband connection, for example. Whereas in India, the peripheral regions don't have any broadband connection, and we're going to find that out a bit later on in the topic too. So make sure you've got that definition down as well. And here are some images which contrast two different places. One is the core, and anything that's M is a place called Mumbai. And Mumbai is a city in India, a very big city in India, and you can see all of these three images represent Mumbai quite nicely. You've got historic buildings, large historic buildings. You've also got tall skyscrapers and clearly well-developed structures. But alongside that, you've also got the development of slums and shanty towns, and one of the biggest slums on the planet is just on the outskirts of Mumbai. Now, so compare that to Bihar, which is very much more rural. You can see it's just fields, dirt roads. The housing, when you think about rural housing, it's in this country, again, it's just like normal housing. It's no different. Whereas rural housing in India really is what you consider rural. They're homemade huts essentially, and that is the majority housing in certain parts anyway of peripheral regions of Bihar. So you can see there is a clear difference between these core and periphery regions, and Mumbai is a core, whereas Bihar is the periphery, if you hadn't figured that one out. And here's a good old-fashioned copy and complete for you to do. What I'd like you to do is pause the screen and use the 9 words in the box on the bottom left-hand side to complete the gap. So copy and complete, please, with the subheading Uneven Development and Change. When you're ready, unpause the screen, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so now you've finished the copy and complete, the main activity for this session, which is going to take you a good chunk of time, 35 minutes at least to do properly, is going to require you to get onto 365 and access the pages from the Highland Cow textbook, page 212 and 13, which you're going to use to complete the information in the format of the table that you can see there. Now, I would suggest this table should take over at least a page of your book, landscape, or if you want to space it out a bit more, a double page spread in your book. You can always get another book from me if you run out of space. So what you need to be doing is using I'll come back to this slide in a second. Use these 3 resources. So these scan pages, okay, which have got loads of information about uneven development in India. All right. This handout, which has got even more information, and it specifically identifies Bihar and Maharashtra, which is where you'll find Mumbai. Okay, so Mumbai, Maharashtra, the core, and Bihar in the periphery. And you've got the images that are on this video, so you can go back to those images to have a little look. And you're going to use these 3 resources to help you complete this table. And as you're at home, if you want to use the internet to help, then you can, but you might be wasting your time a bit. So what I'd like you to do, take each of these factors, okay, and then use the resources to try and summarize, bullet point is fine, what kind of things you might find. So when it comes to Mumbai, employment, there is a lot of stuff written, okay, around here, I think, about the sort of things and industries that you'll find in Mumbai. So there's the film industry, the tech industry, call centres, and so anytime you see an industry, that's a potential job type, okay? So where it comes to life in Mumbai, employment, you'll have a long list of bullet pointed opportunities for different types of employment. For Bihar, it'll tell you there's about 80% of jobs are in agriculture, and that's all it'll say. So the vast majority of jobs and employment in Bihar, in the periphery region, is agriculture, in farming. So the last column is reasons for differences. Why is it that the jobs in Bihar are largely agricultural and the jobs in Mumbai are much more varied and high-tech? It's very straightforward. This is just a bit of common sense that I'd like you to imply here. So this is just getting you to think about why Mumbai might have more opportunities in the tech industry than Bihar. What are the barriers to Bihar for why it's not developing a call centre, for example? And I want you to do exactly the same for housing. Okay, this one, the images will be really useful. All right, so Mumbai, the housing, you've got high quality housing, but you've also got slums, low quality housing. Bihar, you've got sort of traditional huts type housing. Again, what are the reasons for those differences? Why has Mumbai got slums? Why has Mumbai got high-rise tower blocks? Why has Bihar got huts? What are the reasons behind that? Infrastructure, so roads, railways, airport networks, that sort of thing, like broadband, electricity, water. Services, hospitals, schools. Investment, particularly foreign direct investment. And population, how does the population vary, or does it vary, and reasons why? Okay, so all of these 6 aspects summarised using the pages of the textbook, they're the most useful bit, the handout that I've given you, or that's on 365, sorry, and the images that you can see on the video earlier on. All right. Once you've done that, that is by all means the priority of this lesson. If it takes you the remainder of your time to complete this table, then basically that's job done. If that doesn't take you very long because you're a keen bean, you want to crack on, what you might want to do, okay, is choose 2 of the factors. It says suggest reasons why the differences exist. That is for the slightly lazier people, everyone really should be trying to come up with reasons in every single one of these boxes if you're going to do it within the 35-ish minutes or more. It does say to share your ideas as a class, but I don't really want you to do that because you can't, you're at home. But for the keen beans, okay, reviewing your lesson notes is going to be a really important thing as you do, and I'm sure by now you are used to me badgering you about reviewing your notes, making sure you're constantly revisiting them. But these 5 questions are what I'd like you to focus on. If you've finished this table, and by the way, this table is the priority, okay? Just doing that is enough. But those aiming for 7, 8, 9, I'd strongly urge you to review your notes by trying to answer these 5 questions, because over the last 2 sessions I've covered a great deal of information, and these 5 questions are answerable by you if you followed that information accurately. So see if you can answer each 5 of these. What is India's cultural contribution to the world? An example of core and peripheral region. What is monsoon? Why is it important? Blah blah blah. Okay, all of these things I'd like you to see if you could answer them, and it's not going to be an exam question answer. That's just designed to try and tell you whether you're taking on board the information that's been presented over the last 2 sessions. Okay, so that is for those of you, like I say, wanting to ongoing review your work. It's quite an important thing to do. So that is the end of this session. Lesson 9 done, and I will see you next time for lesson 10. Thanks for listening.